Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidiyate. Okay, so we are resolving this Jiva Ishvara difference, the Jiva, the sentient being and the total. And the most essential teaching that we have to understand is, see, this Brahman, we also give another name called Atman. Atma. Sometimes you will hear Atman. It's actually Atma. See, Atman is a stem, but if you decline that stem, you get Atma. Same thing if you get Brahman. This is a stem, but if you decline, you get Brahma. So whether you see Brahman or Brahma, Atman or Atma, it's one and the same thing. So we said that see now, whether I call Brahman the final reality or whether I call Atman the final reality, it's the same. It's the same principle. So it says that, see, this Atma, and now you could say that Atma, and what is Atma? We said, Atma is you, right? You. When I say I am, this whoever this I am is, this is Atma, okay? So now this Atma, technically what? Enjoys a power, and this power, right? Power in you, power in yourself, power, no longer power in Brahman, power in me, you understand? So this means we have to start changing our language. You can no longer use these words like, Brahman. And some teachers, with all due respect, they will stick with this Brahman, Brahman, Brahman. You eventually have to take an affirmative, an authoritative stand and say, this is what Brahman, it's just a word. Make it personal, I. And some people refuse to do this because they're sort of, they feel fraud. But then again, what? We've been saying I'm small all our life. In fact, that is fraud. So now we're telling you, you're not small. You are Brahman. You are limitless. So, and you have the right to start to think like this, to understand this, because through endless analysis, we've come to the same conclusion, that this is in fact the absolute truth. It is non-negatable. So therefore, now when we come to class and we hear this teaching, we have to now, what is our duty? You don't just go into the world and start saying, oh, poor me, victim, I'm a victim, look at me, come help me, look, I need help. It's a responsibility that you and I have now to start to use this teaching in a proper, mature way. What does this mean, proper and mature? It doesn't mean, now what? These are all lost souls, and what? We are like what? Educated. In fact, the one who says this is, what they're speaking of. So this means, and at the same time, an era is, as I said, wants to share this outside class. Now you have these study groups. Study groups are fine and they are recommended. But in a public environment, this is damaging to the tradition. So this means two responsibilities. One, knowing where to keep this. It is between you and your study group, you and your friends, you and your, your teacher. But at the same time, this Brahman and Atman, you have to start, stop using these words Brahman, Brahman, Brahman. It is I, right here, right now. Okay? So this Atman has this wonderful creative power, and this power creates this world. So what? Your power is creating this world right now, and it's also creating you, the person sitting on the floor, and this person standing up. So this means, so what? Atman, you have Atman minus the total upadhi. This is Maya is the total upadhi. Minus the total upadhi, and you get what? You get consciousness. You get pure consciousness. You get now you have jiva, right? Your system minus the three bodies, minus this sukshma, sthula, and karana sharira. These are upadhis. And you get the same consciousness. So we have proper language. We say like this. We say Ishvara minus Now you understand what Ishvara is before I move on? Ishvara. See, when I say, technically, if you want to call Brahman, Brahman is to be understood. Ishvara is to be worshipped. They say Brahman is to be understood. Ishvara is to be worshipped. What does this mean? You cannot you cannot worship Brahman. You understand? Brahman is formless, attributeless. So this means when I think about Ishvara, when I worship Ishvara, when I inquire into Ishvara, into this world, then what am I automatically including? I am including the truth of Ishvara being yourself, being Brahman. It's again important to understand. You cannot, with Brahman consciousness, every time you say these words, you have not, it's almost a waste of time because you keep on objectifying these words. So this means the world is your entry point into understanding yourself, because we only deal with forms. Is this not true? All we have around us is forms. Show me where's consciousness. Show me. But you can understand wherever there is world, that's exactly where consciousness is. And that part is knowledge. That part is knowledge. Just like metaphor. When the wave in the ocean says, I am the entire, all this is me. The wave says, oh, this is me. This me, it cannot be directly referring to the water. You understand? Because to directly refer to the water is to again turn it into some kind of an idea. When the wave says, all that is here is me, what is this all that is here is me? What is the wave doing at that moment? It's looking at the world. You understand? All that is here is me, says the wave. What is the wave seeing? Names and forms. Names and forms. Names and forms. You understand? If it says all that is here is me, some consciousness, that's an idea in the mind. So you have to be back to Ishvara Srishti, and then from Ishvara Srishti you acknowledge all that is here is me. So this means all forms that are here is me. Now, what is the me referring to? The truth of those forms. And that me is an understanding, as we have just said now. What is this me? Is. What's the truth of all forms? They all enjoy is. Okay, the names and forms changes, but the isness aspect remains through and through all forms. So therefore, but since all forms enjoy is, I also enjoy is. I also exist and I'm also aware. Therefore, there's only one is here. There's only one existence here. Now, so the understanding to take place is that where is the contradiction between the Jiva and Ishvara? Where's the contradiction between Jiva and Ishvara? In the Upadi. Excellent. Who said that? Okay. Okay. So this means, what is the lesson here? What's the practical lesson here? How do we use this now? Wherever the confusion arises, where is your mind going to? It's going back onto the Upadi. Understand? So whatever pain we ever experience, and whatever entanglements we get caught up, where is the mind going back to? To the mere names and forms, to the mere Upadi. So now you say, oh geez, how do I make this practical? I just told you. It's an understanding, you understand? It's an understanding to be taken seriously, thought about. So, in real life, we have psychology, we have all sorts of therapies, we have all sorts of methods to manage our emotions and our life. But that's fine, and I adore that. It's really useful. But amongst that, you see, one has to understand there's an eventual point. My teacher Nima, she did what? Where psychology ends, right, and spirituality begins. And what does she say there? I would I wasn't there, but I wonder what she said.
Well, she said that psychology is very important.
Yeah.
But it only deals with the psyche, and the psyche is actually Vidya.
Got it.
And so this is my words, yeah. And so, because it's Vidya, you never solve the problem really. But psychology is very important to get a quiet mind, to get things straightened out, which otherwise make it difficult for you to grasp Vedanta, you know, because of your disturbed mind.
Got it.
So she gave all honors to psychology,
Right.
but if that's done, it's only for so far, and then you can get into Vedanta. Because where psychology ends, there Vedanta begins.
This is beautiful. You heard every word, yeah? So psychology has its purpose, but eventually comes to a point where you need to start bringing this knowledge into your life, bringing this understanding that this person is a mere upadhi. You understand the implications of the statement. The person is a mere upadhi. Right now, the one is shaking their head. It's a mere upadhi. Okay. Okay. So see, ongoing thinking about it, thinking what is the implications of this. I tell you, there's a real depth. The more you think about this, there's more depth, implications in real life, and therefore, when situation comes, you almost no longer depend on psychology, I tell you. You no longer depend on psychology. Automatically the mind understands this is upadhi going through its things. It's not really my problem. Okay, it's not really my problem. But at the same time, see, we don't get arrogant here and say it's not my problem, therefore I just let myself run like a wild bull. So it's a fine art. Okay? The person is what? If a person is a donkey, I will never be a horse. I will, walk like a donkey. I will quack like a donkey. I will run like a donkey. So this means what? What kind of upadhi did I get? I got a donkey upadhi. Now, if I see a horse over there, I want to be like a horse because, donkeys carry things for people. We get no respect. But then horses, they get all the respect. They comb the horses. They take care of them. They're very expensive. They do kind of, race horses. So they're very good. So this means there's a responsibility as a donkey to look at the horse and appreciate the horse equally to the donkey. And how do you appreciate it? Not superficially. You have to go appreciate it. It is a mere assignment. It's a sign. It's just assigned by Ishvara. This is a donkey assignment. This is a horse assignment. This is a donkey assignment. They're upadhis. Remove the upadhi and you have just awareness. You have sat and chit.
But at the same time, there can be some level of personal development and constant growing for your emotional maturity and still advancing as a person. Absolutely, because you see, now that also changes the relationship to what that means to grow, right? And what's the intention behind it will also change. Nothing's not changing here, everything's changing. So initially one starts out that, I want to look good, I want to impress you, I want to kind of impress people when I talk. And then slowly, the intention changes. Hey, I want to communicate the message so it has more impact. I want to get the delivery so that there is a direct, match between the speaker and the listener's understanding. So the intention changes behind your personal development. Yeah. So in other words, it's more from me, started out from me, little me, into more what can I do to be a better contributor to the world. So this is the journey for everyone. It starts out with me, but then slowly it becomes about how can I contribute more and just be a person that adds some light to this world. Yeah. Okay.
From me to be.
From me to?
To be.
From me to be.
To be-ness.
Yes. Yeah, of course. And so now this is why I like this retreat is that where psychology ends is because it doesn't dismiss psychology, so there's no question of dismissing anything here. Why? These are intelligent people. They work with the worst cases imaginable with borderline suicide. So obviously they have a lot more skills dealing with a depressed mind than you and I have. Because I bring a borderline suicide patient to you and you're like, my God, one word I say wrong and they can take their life. So imagine how much responsibility these people have. Yeah. So, honoring these psychologists, right? They are doing so much good works here for us, for you and I. So this is, and this is what all Ishvara, this is all Ishvara, all knowledge, all power percolating through different personalities. And every personality, wherever there's a problem, there will be a solution, and someone has a solution for a problem. And this is also the same thing here. The teacher has a problem for, a solution for a certain problem. It's just problem, solution. And who's doing all of this? Ishvara. This is Ishvara's intelligence, which is why, as I said at the beginning, we have a devotional attitude for Ishvara. We take on a devotional attitude for this world. So this means, and what world? Yeah, this is the world. Where is the world not? So this means, wherever we can have, bringing this knowledge and just bringing what I'm experiencing is all knowledge, all power. Right now, operating right here. I'm going to be on the flight in a couple of hours. The pilots that are taking me home safely, they are also Ishvara. So this means they're also worthy of worship. So this means we take on attitude, bringing in this knowledge and taking some reverence towards, reverentiality towards this world. And this is possible how? By understanding that all that is here is this knowledge and power which is taking care of you, has been taking care of you since the beginningless beginning. Everyone came and went. Everyone came and went. All of your partners and your children, lifetimes, they have all left. The only one that's been taking care of you is this intelligence and this power which has got you here long enough to one life since beginningless time to finally understand this truth and therefore to finally appreciate oneself as the whole. So now, where's the question of having a dry life? There's no question of having a dry life. It's really just a devotional life. That's the only other possibility. Okay? So this means the personality takes on sweetness. Before it was dry, it was like intellectual, nimitta upadana karanam, ticked. Okay? Now it has got a little bit more sweetness, more gentleness, more, more kind of relaxed. Where is there to hurry up? Where are you going? Where are you going, right? So there's not much to hurry up here. So relaxed, gentle, a little bit sweeter, a little bit kind of what we call bringing in the motherly spirit. Before it was strict fatherly spirit, which is also okay. Now we also mix that with the motherly spirit. So we have the fatherly spirit, the strict and the discipline, but we also have the motherly spirit, the softness and the gentleness. So they both are now there working together. So what is devotion? It's really nothing but bringing these both polarities and working with them, not being they're not out of balance. Samadhi dasha sampannam. Okay, so samadhi dasha sampannam, this is still the same verse. It starts with iti chena stula sukshma. Iti chena stula sukshma. This is the verse we're still on since yesterday. Okay? So I'm just looking at the word samadhi dasha sampannam. See, what is this samadhi? So what is this referring to? See, back in those times, there was yogis, and these yogis used to speak a lot about these nirvikalpa samadhis. This was not too uncommon back then. Today, we don't have this so much because we're so distracted. But in those times, samadhi was quite a common thing, actually. And so they used to use this samadhi as a teaching tool. How so? In not savikalpa, in nirvikalpa, this means there's no pramata, prameya, pramana. All those three are what? They're gone. Okay? So now when they're gone, what obtains is pure consciousness. What we said, Shuddham Chaitanya. This is per the verse. Shuddham Chaitanya. Shuddham means just pure, clean, uncontaminated, and Chaitanya literally means in the dictionary consciousness. So what obtains in Nirvikalpa Samadhi is just pure consciousness. And so it says, what is the truth of this jiva? It is that. It is that. It is that which obtains in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So in this case, they used it as a teaching tool. Now see, you don't need Nirvikalpa Samadhi to understand what is consciousness. Understand? This is the first thing to understand. You don't need these samadhis to understand consciousness. Even though it is a lovely, useful teaching tool, you still don't need it. In fact, those who will dismiss this, they're the ones who will say, I still need to experience it. Okay? Which is nothing wrong with that, but eventually the individual will come to a point and say, okay, now that I've experienced it, now I realize what Advaita Vedanta was saying all along is you don't need to experience it. Why not? Because what I experienced in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it was no different than what I'm experiencing right now. Okay? There was one facet, there was one aspect in Nirvikalpa Samadhi that was exactly the same, that is exactly the same right now. So this person realizes this later, but what do we say? We say you don't need to experience it because through knowledge you understand, even though there seems to be an upadhi difference between pramata, prameya, pramana, there is no difference at all. It's only due to upadhi. Okay, and you say, how do I believe this? How do I know this? Well, we just did the analysis. You start out with satya mithya analysis. And you also understand that you're always aware and you're conscious, and therefore you can take some scriptural faith in this teaching too. It's beginning to be hot here. Now, upadhi shunyam, that's the second last line. Upadhi shunyam, and then again Shuddha Chaitanya, Tatpada Lakshyartha. So now what's the Lakshyartha? What's the deeper meaning of Ishvara? It says, again, it is, see Shunyam, the word Shunyam, it means devoid of upadhi. So in other words, so Ishvara devoid of upadhi, that means Ishvara devoid of Maya upadhi, what obtains Shuddham Chaitanya. Therefore, Jiva devoid of three bodies upadhi, right? Your mind, your physical body, and your causal body, devoid of that, upadhi equals consciousness, and Ishvara devoid of Maya upadhi equals consciousness also. So the only difference is, these upadhi difference. That's the real message here. Okay. So again, I tell you, and I keep on saying, if the upadhi is the only factor that is causing the difference, and there's nothing that you can do about this upadhi, then where's the question of trying to change things? If you think about it, why should I change things? I don't control the upadhi, but it is upadhi nevertheless. So this means I am to bear this upadhi for a little while longer while this body is alive. While this body is alive, you cannot do anything about it. You just have to bear it. You have to go through it. Go through the best of your capacities, of course. So this upadhi shunyam, therefore, the truth of this Ishvara, of God, is Shuddham Chaitanya, pure consciousness. Now, how do you now demonstrate that Ishvara, there's only one Shuddham Chaitanya? Because it says Jiva is Shuddham Chaitanya, and now it says Ishvara is Shuddham Chaitanya. So how do I now demonstrate that there's only one consciousness? Right? How many consciousness can there be? Consciousness is consciousness. How can you say that Ishvara's consciousness is different from the Jiva's consciousness? Otherwise, if they would be different, then I wouldn't be able to know about Ishvara, because Ishvara will be in a totally different, place, and I will be able to understand it.
It has no attributes, right?
Yeah, now I'll do the analysis of two consciousnesses analysis to get this idea out that you can have two consciousnesses. I'll do this a little bit later. Yeah. For now, there can only be one consciousness. So whatever consciousness Ishvara enjoys is exactly the same consciousness right now that you and I enjoy. Except the only difference is Ishvara says, I am everything, I know all things, and we say, well, in the presence of me, I know a little bit. Ishvara says, in the presence of me, I know everything. We say, in the presence of me, I know a little bit. But this in the presence of, that is the same consciousness, Shuddham Chaitanya. Therefore, evam cha jiveshvara yoho, in this manner, Chaitanya Rupena Bhede Badha Ka Bhavaha. So no contradiction. So therefore, in this manner, there is no contradiction between Jiva and Ishvara because they both enjoy the same Vastu, which means reality. Okay? Next verse. It says here, one of a man of realization. Okay. Evam cha Vedanta Vakyaihi Satguru Padeshena Cha Sarveshwapi Bhuteshu Yesham Brahma Buddhi Utpanna Te Jivanmuktaha Iti Arthaha So it's talking about so Vedanta Vakyaihi. So this great, this great statement, this Mahavakya. So why do we need a Mahavakya? A Mahavakya is just a short, succinct statement to summarize the teaching. And now there are 4 of them in total. And some schools, I tell you, they say that you need all 4 Mahavakyas. See, we've only done 1. So this means now we need all 3. We need 3 more, right? They say you need all 4 to understand the whole teaching. And so you can just see how deep this goes. You know, because this is not true. Because every Mahavakya comes from a different Upanishad, a different Veda. So this means if I you know what, Tattvamasi, now what Veda is it? Yajur Veda? I think it's Atharva Veda. I'm not sure. Chandogya Upanishad comes from which Veda? This I'd like to know. Either Rik, Yajur, Atharva or Samaveda. I think Samaveda. I'm not sure. So this means if I read Samaveda and I get Tattvamasi, then I'm only 1/4 of the way there. Now, do you know how big the Vedas are? They are huge. They are huge texts. So, and not only that, back in those times, right, in India, you used to give 1 Veda to every family, and that's the Veda they are to percolate and pass on. So this means if you give the Tattvamasi Veda to one individual, that means they will never get any moksha because they need to now know all the 4 other Vedas. So now what do they say? You've got these 4 Mahavakyas. You've got the definition Vakya. Not definition. You've got pointing out Vakya, which is Tattvamasi. So this means I am now pointing out what is the truth. That you are that. I am pointing out. So this is the first one, the pointing out Mahavakya, Tat Tvamasi. Then what do we have? We have a definition Vakya, Mahavakya. This is the definition of the truth. And this says Prajnana Brahman. Prajnana Brahman. This is a definition Mahavakya. It means Brahman is consciousness. Okay? The final, simple English, the final reality is consciousness. Simple. This is definition Vakya. And then you have a contemplation Mahavakya. It is Ayam Atma Brahman. This Atma is Brahman. Ayam Atma Brahman. So this, now we say what to you? Now take Ayam Atma Brahman and go over there and contemplate under a tree what it means. So no, this is not how it works. And the other Mahavakya is if you want experience, now you need to go to the fourth one, Aham Brahman Asmi. Aham Brahman Asmi. This is the experience of Mahavakya. So all of these words pointing out, definition, experience, contemplation, erase these words. This is not true. This is all just a mixture, spiritual kind of cuckoo-ness. But what is true is these four Mahavakyas. They all do the same thing. They all reveal the truth. Therefore, we are not to put them under pointing out Mahavakya, definition Mahavakya, experience Mahavakya. They're just Mahavakyas there to reveal the truth. And what are they? They are, again, Tattvamasi, Prajnana Brahman. Prajnana Brahman means consciousness is Brahman. Ayam Atma Brahman. This Atma is Brahman. And Aham Brahman Asmi. Aham, I am Brahman. I am Brahman. They are all the same, I tell you. They're just worded differently. Okay.
I've read somewhere that it's also the reason why, for example, Shankara chose his 10 Upanishads from every Veda to show via these Mahavakyas that it's all the same message.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. I have
the same kind of argument, but the other way around.
Yeah, so no doubt they are, see, you can have a whole conversation on just one Mahavakya. Yeah, I tell you, they have these huge, long retreats just on Tattvamasi or Prajnana Brahman. So they're all wonderful tools. What is our Mahavakya in Tattva Bodha? Tattvamasi. This is our Mahavakya. We don't need to worry about others. They're all the same teachings. So just to point this out, what is this Mahavakya business about? Mahavakya business. Okay. And then, oh my God, I've got to hurry up. Okay. Sadguru Upadeshena. So this Mahavakya is pointed, so you need a Sadguru. We're not talking about the modern Sadguru. Sadguru just means Sat Truth Guru, teacher, right? So the teacher of truth. So how does this Mahavakya come alive? It comes through the Sadguru, and therefore they are needed to make this Vedanta work. And what do they say to you? What does the Sadguru say? That sarveshvapi bhuteshu, so that in all beings, bhuta is beings, right? So in all beings, there is this one Brahman. And how do you know? Because Brahma buddhihi utpana. What does this Mahavakya reveal? It shows that where? In your buddhi. That's why it's Brahma buddhi. So it shows in your buddhi. So the truth is born in the buddhi. You are born in the buddhi. In other words, careful here. Where does awareness take place? There's only one place. In your buddhi. It doesn't take place in your finger or anywhere here. It's specifically in the buddhi. So this buddhi understands now that whatever is making this buddhi conscious is consciousness. Whatever is making this buddhi work is consciousness. In other words, I. Before, it was what? The consciousness was still making the buddhi work, but the buddhi did not think it was consciousness. The buddhi thought it was I. And what came with this word I? All of the stuff. I did a little experiment yesterday. Did you know that you are... Now walk away. And then whatever stuff, narratives came along with that buddhi, that's what the buddhi thought it was. It thought it was that much. But now, I can also say the same thing. Did you know that you are, and then I walk away. And then, but what's the difference now? You understand whatever is lighting up is what I'm lighting this up, and you know this narrative does not belong to me, who is lighting this up. Okay, so there's a small distinction. So the truth is born in the buddhi, and to this one, to whom the truth is born in the buddhi, they are called a Jivanmukta. A Jivanmukta, the one who is liberated while living. Okay? Therefore, what happens now? They have a proper relationship with their ornaments. Before, an ornament was just an ornament. Now, you know, an ornament, there's a certain divinity in every ornament. Okay? The ornament over there is the same gold that the ornament that I am also. So this means there's a different relationship now in this world. It's a genuine change in behavior. It's not just intellectualizing. Oh yeah, I'm gold, I'm this. It's a genuine change. You appreciate the same content through and through all beings in this very moment. So therefore, that is a Jivanmuktaha, the one for whom truth is born. Even though the truth was there all along, but I didn't consider it. I did not pay attention to what this light was that was illumining my experience. It was just an ordinary thing. Now there's a distinction. So this means nothing has really changed. Just, you understand that, I was not the thinker, I was not the doer, I was not the contemplator, but I was the one that was shining the thinker, the doer, the contemplator. Okay? Next verse. Nanu Jivanmuktaha kaha, Nanu Jivanmuktaha kaha, Yatha dehoham purushoham, Yatha dehoham purushoham, Brahmanoham shudroham, Brahmanoham shudroham, Asmi iti, Dridhanishchayaha, Dridhanishchayaha. So again, it starts with nanu. Remember the word nanu? Common word in the Shastra? Nanu, nanu, nanu. Objection, 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 objection. Who is a Jivanmukta? Okay. Okay, so who and what is this Jivanmukta? Let's see what it says. So yatha deho purushoham. So see, dehoham purushoham, Brahmano. See, you can superimpose anything on anything. Very easy. Your mind can superimpose, whatever notion you want on someone else's face. This is easy. We all do this. You can superimpose a snake on a rope. You can impose a shell on a silver coin. You can impose, what else do we use? Examples, superimposition. You can impose an opinion on some person. You can do anything you want. So in this same way, because of this possibility to superimpose two things, this means the man or woman, doesn't matter what the gender is, the one who doesn't know who they are, what kind of a mistake they commit, and they are absolutely sure of that. In this case, we have Brahmana. So a Brahmana, see, this is relative to India, so you can use modern language. A Brahmana is just who you identify with, your role. An educated person, a doctor, a lawyer, a farmer, a merchant, a CEO, just Brahmana, any role you want to put there. So a Brahmana is absolutely convinced, I am a Brahmana. So for them, they have what happened? They superimposed Brahmana status onto Shuddham Chaitanya, because you always need a platform to superimpose onto, just like a projector. I need a platform to project onto the pure template. In that same Shuddham, pure consciousness, gets projected the notion that I am a Brahmana, whether by birth or whether by personality, it doesn't matter. And now this is called unconscious, undeliberate superimposition. It just happened. I never thought about it. It just happened. It's unconscious. It's not deliberate. It's undeliberate. We also have another kind of superimposition, which is called deliberate superimposition. For example, if you look at a huge collection of rock, you call this what? A mountain. It's not really a mountain, it's just rocks. So in this case, it is deliberate superimposition. Now, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking undeliberate superimposition, whereby where you're so sure that's who you are, it is like waking up, you don't question it. You asking me who I am? Are you kidding me? You asking me who I am? I know who I am. It's just so normal. You will fight it. You will put, you advertise yourself. I am a coach. I am a life coach. Okay, okay. And so, with all the respect to all people, I don't know what they mean by this, but and it's so normal that it's like, yeah, I'm a man. Do you ever say to someone, if you're a woman, right? Hey, did you know that okay, in my case, did you know that I'm a man? I'm a male? Did you know that? Hey, no, really, I'm a male. I want to tell you, I'm a male. Same thing for the female. Do you ever do this to someone? Why not? Because it is so obvious. So you never mention what is so obvious. You only mention what is kind of new, right? It's new, it's just recent. Like, hey, I'm learning German. Why am I saying this? Because I'm learning German. It's very recent for me. But you never mention things that are so obvious, so normal. So now, like this, as much as this Brahmana is convinced, what is it like for a Jivanmukta? And then he says, Tata Naham, I am not Brahmana, I am not Shudra. Shudra is like an agriculture, a laborer. I am not a Purusha, not Brahmana, not Shudra. And then what? And now it says, what am I? I am, and then it gives you a whole bunch of words here. So you understand this? Equally convinced. One is so convinced they are a Brahmana, they are this or that. The Jivanmukta is like that, so convinced that you cannot, it's like, I am so sure I am not the body, it's almost weird to say that you're a Jivanmukta. Just like it's weird to say you're a man or a woman, it's weird to say that you're a Jivanmukta. It's just weird. It doesn't even come to you because it's like, huh? What? Why are you even bringing this up? It's so strange because it's so normal, so ascertained, so deep, so well thought about. So with that equal depth, the Jivanmukta cannot even tell that they are a Jivanmukta because it is so obvious, so normal that there is no other possibility. Therefore, to claim that one is enlightened, that has a slight problem. I don't know what the implications are. Maybe someone, maybe there's a context. Context always matters, so you cannot dismiss this. But otherwise, I mean, look, this is beautifully saying here, is that just like you don't mention, how you're a Brahmana, you're a lawyer, you're a teacher, you're a whatever you are, mother, father, you don't mention that you know this knowledge because it's just so ingrained in you. It's so obvious. Okay?
So some people claim things that they are, and they are really convinced about it, but they aren't. Is this also possible what you say?
Yeah. I mean, I heard. See, I don't ever question this. I don't get involved in this. For me personally, how I feel sad, almost, I feel it's doing damage. It's unfair to claim these things, because it's almost like stealing attention, and now, and those who don't know any better, they will innocently now come onto this person and look for.
But is it possible that this person doesn't do it? She is convinced of it.
Yeah.
And she is innocent to do it because she is convinced.
Yeah, this is see, time is your best friend. Time will eventually bring humility. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes there's nothing that you and I can do, and you have to know where your limits are, where you can stop. You can only point out, but you need to, like Krishna, right? I said, he negotiated with Duryodhana, he didn't brush him off. He tried, give him back, so easy, can't even give him back, one house? Not 1 inch of land do I want to give him. If the Pandavas wanted, they had to fight. That's when Krishna realized he exhausted all of his options, and then Krishna can only leave it to time itself for Bhima to kick his butt later on. Okay, so this means time is still necessary for one to get out of this very hard to get out of notion that the one's sort of enlightened, and so this is very weird to hear. I tell you, I get emails like this. One lady has said to me, I read your article on the website, and I'm almost now enlightened. The last time I got enlightened was by the few words of a monk. He said a few words and I got enlightened, but I'm no longer enlightened. But now I read your article and now I'm almost close to enlightenment again. And I still didn't reply to this. I'm still thinking, how do you reply to this craziness, right? So now, see, you bring all of these notions and you put them into one person who's genuinely, see, these are not bad people. No one's bad here. They just want well-being for themselves. And the brain doesn't know any better. So it has to make some conclusion. This is what the brain does. It fills in the blanks. And now, in this case, you have someone so convinced that there's no more space to teach. The cup is full. So you try to add, it's just going to overflow anyway. And the only thing is you can just leave it to time to slowly empty out that cup. But you and I cannot do anything. And I no longer worry about these things. It's not even on my radar anymore. I just care about people who are ready, who want to listen. Everyone else who's sort of dozing off, it's not even on my radar anymore. You cannot waste your time or afford to be worried about these people, because it takes a toll on you.
Was the Dalai Lama said you can feel compassion for that? Is that okay, or do you feel, if you feel compassion that you be more? It feels also like I'm above you. That feel compassion for the poor.
The best way to deal with this is just to don't dismiss them. Don't dismiss them. To dismiss them is to create more resistance, and now they want to establish themselves further. Do not resist or dismiss them. Just okay.
But this is valid more or less for all the people who have some notions, because there are so many notions they identify with, not just enlightenment, but also in politics, for example, they have these very, very strong opinions.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to say reflect, because they are too invested.
Yeah, you see, this is it.
Invested.
This is it. And the irony is that that fella is what likes attract. So that fella will be amidst others who reinforce that notion. So if someone who comes up to clear the notions out, they won't get a chance. So in this case, time was also Ishvara. So Ishvara sorts them out, Time sorts them out, Ishvara sorts them out.
It's all part of karma, isn't it?
Yeah. I think all of us were at some point kind of dozing off in these notions. I know I was, before Vedanta came to my life. Was I evil? Was I a bad person? No, but I did say some very stupid things I remember one time at an event, it was a long time ago, called Uplift Festival, in Byron Bay, and you used to have different spiritual teachers coming from around the world to, like Bruce Lipton also was one of them, you know, the honeymoon effect and all this great knowledge. And I sat down, and at that time I thought I knew it, you know, obviously you think you know things. And I sat down next to a lady who was into Buddhism, and I started to talk about advice, you know, sort of just open my mouth and just talk, just like I'm doing now. And, but what happened was, after I stopped, she listened, and she just got up and I say, I hope that, what did she say? I hope that your suffering comes to an end. Oh my God. And I was like, my God, and that hit me so hard, I tell you. I never forgot it. And I only now know, years later, what she even meant by that. And you know what I said? I'm not suffering. I'm not suffering. Instant denial, right? You see, so what can you do? These are notions, and it takes time to fall down, and you get up, you know, so hurt is good. You know, if someone hurts us, we actually stand up again stronger, much wiser. So thank God that I got slapped a few times in my life to be here now. Yeah. And still, you know, I still get slapped, and I want to get slapped. See, this is the beauty. If you stop being slapped by life, that's basically the flower starts to wither away now. The flower only continues to grow because it is what? Blown by the winds of the world. It's supplied oxygen, and this oxygen is what we call challenges in life. So, you know, the beauty is, you know, these challenges which hold you up. It holds you up. It holds you strong. Mm-hmm. And then we have asangaha. Yeah, so now I just want to describe some attributes of the Jivanmukta. Asangaha. See, asanga means uninvolved. You know, asanga, you know, I'm going to a satsang. It just means, sat means truth and sang means company. So I'm going to the company of truth. Now, asanga, sangha means attachment. Sangha means attachment also. So when you go to a satsanga, a sangha, you're getting attached to what? To the truth. Now, asanga, you just put an a and you negate that word. So not involved, not attached. Now, what they often say is, see, you know, you are, awareness is uninvolved, unattached, all of this. You have to be careful here because, see, we just said that the truth of everything is awareness. So we cannot just now dismiss and say awareness is uninvolved, unattached. It is through and through all forms, but it is free of all forms. Just like space. Space is involved, but despite its involvement, space is uninvolved. You know what I mean by this? So right now, how is space involved? It's accommodating everything, but at the same time, space is uninvolved. It's not moving any object. It's not kind of, you know, moving this curtain or anything. It's just allowing things to be. So like this, awareness, which is also sat chit. You cannot just say awareness here, this is sat chit. You know, despite its involvement in your body, mind, intellect, because your whole body is made out of, you know, existence. Despite its involvement, it is uninvolved. Despite the gold's involvement in the ornaments, you know, the gold remains free of all of the ornaments. If it were not to remain free, then if it takes one shape, it would never be allowed to take another shape. So this means, asanga means formless. That which is like space, it's formless. How do you understand formless? Take the water. I used this example earlier. Water is formless. How do you prove this? Well, because you've got high waves, you've got low waves. So this means water is neither high nor low. You understand? If water were to be high, you could never see a low wave. If water were to be low, then you could never have a high wave. So water itself has to be without height, without size, without shape. Only because it's without height, size, and shape can it produce, can you have, this huge, thunderous, roaring, a huge wave for the surfers. And then you can have a calm, a little drizzle, a little calm for the rest of us who are, want just to chill out at the beach. So this means water itself is involved, but despite its involvement, it is free of whatever forms it takes. It is all, because all forms are allowed to be what they are, but forever. So this means whatever inheres in those forms has to be constantly free of those waves, that shape, that size, those attributes, that color, and so on, and what have you. Okay? So this means, like this, you are formless. Despite this world obtaining and changing and so on, you remain completely uninvolved. And how do we do that? How do we prove this? Well, very easy. If something got stuck onto you, you would not be free of that in deep sleep. It would be there permanently. In deep sleep, you're a clean slate. Nothing is there. So this means whatever happened in the waking state and dream state, none of those objects got stuck onto you. So through this, we can demonstrate that you are, despite your involvement, you remain free, intrinsically free of whatever happens. Therefore, now do you need to detach? Detach from the world, detach from people, detach from relationships. See, so if you superimpose, awareness's detachment, the nature of detachment onto the body, then I try to make the body detached, and therefore I say I don't want a relationship, I want to sort of be for myself, and I don't want any of this. So this means inherently you are free, intrinsically you are free, but your body can still get attached to people and get attached and love and do things in this world. So this means we have to make this discernment between who is it that is not involved and what is involved. And what is involved is your body, which cannot help itself, because it is not your order. You did not create your body, you did not create your life, it just came out. And therefore, the body has a need to act, has a need to continue being attached to various things in life. If it doesn't, what's going to happen? Person goes emotionally crazy. We said everything has an emotional value for everyone. You may not find, some people like knitting. They just gives them, like knitting, gives them a state of mind. I know one student at Nima, she just talks to me like this, Andre. Only she's automatic, right? Constantly knitting. Very smart person. So this is her value. I may not want to knit, but she wants to knit. So now if I tell her, you need to detach from knitting, and so it becomes a dry life. So there's no question of physically detaching, even though when we say detach, it just means a simpler lifestyle, But then again, just to be here, you already have a relatively simple lifestyle anyway.
But actually the whole tension goes away, like this need, I have to do this.
Yeah, this need, I have to. This also changes through time. You see the real, what really is there for me and what is not there for me. So this too has a relationship change. But while it's there, see, it's very dangerous to deny it. Because if you deny it, then what? It's going to just kind of ruminate in your life. So there's a fine balance between how much, when it's too much and too little. If I want to now go to a party or, a nightclub, then I can still go, but then you come in with some intelligence, perhaps not speaking too long, and if someone's babbling on about what nonsense did I babble on about today, I have the right to walk away and find an interesting conversation. So this means you can still act in this world, you can still follow your desires intelligently. So it doesn't leave this long trace of thinking about, oh man, it was so good, and so this just disturbs the mind in the future. Yeah. Prakasha Rupaha. So Prakasha, see, they compare, it's a imagery, they compare consciousness to light. To light. And now what's the attributes of light? Not what's the attribute, what's light like? It's formless. Does light have a form? It doesn't have a form. Does light have a form? You can maybe say, yes, it does, it's still photons, but let's not get that scientific. Just, light is just diffused all over. In that sense, it's formless. Does light have division? Does light have division? No, it's divisionless. It's without boundaries. It doesn't suddenly one corner is light and suddenly another part is no light. It's just, it's diffused as long as light can penetrate. So your consciousness is without boundaries. It is like light. It's simply just whatever is in the room, whatever. Imagine this is your mind, right? Imagine this is your mind, and there are objects in your mind. And just turn on the light, and then what happens? Oh, look, there's a cup, there are people, there's my family members, there is teacher, there's this or this, that. Why do you see all this? Because the one that's shining, this house, is you. And whatever is in this house is just the memories that you picked up in this world. It's very simple like this. And so that's all consciousness. It just lights up your mind, lights up all of the contents in your mind, and therefore you mention the stuff where? You talk about the stuff that you have lit up. Oh, I want to share my thought. Why? Because a thought is inside your mind, and you are shining all of the contents in your mind, and so you go, oh look, I just want to mention this lady at the Uplift Festival. This was a thought lit up by whom? The very same light that is lighting up your mind right now. Therefore, consciousness is like light. We say like light because it's the closest metaphorical example that we have to portray this who you are, the illumining principle, the one that illumines the mind. And then we have an objection, nanu, objection. And what's this objection? Okay, well, how do I now tell that, I can easily say that my consciousness is different than your consciousness. Okay, we can say this easy. There's a localized consciousness here, and there's a localized consciousness here. Now, there's several problems that comes up, and I'll mention 3 of them. The first one is, I will now say to you, okay, if your consciousness is different from my consciousness, then then describe your consciousness to me, please. How is it? Because the only way you can say different implies what? I'm going to mention something that follows the word different. So now I want you to mention how is it different? What would you like to attribute to qualify your statement that it's different? And now what are you going to say to me? Well, my consciousness is blue. Ah, blue. Okay, so what is blue? Blue is just another attribute that belongs to the mind. Or even if you say my consciousness is smart, smart is only relative to what you know. And what you know is only relative to how much you know. And that is also relative to how much you believe that you're smart. And that's also relative to how many things you've picked up in this world. And that's also relative to what culture you're born in. And that's also relative to what age you're born in. Because people in the 1500s could have been more humble, and they don't say these statements like this. But people in the year 2020, or perhaps we kind of make more kind of expressive statements. Say, I'm this and this. But in the 1500s, we were more conservative, so we don't make such statements. So in other words, how many dependencies is the word blue or smart dependent upon? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So again, the only way your consciousness can be different from my consciousness is how? By trying to what? Describe it. But then objection, okay, that is just an attribute of the mind. Is this clear? Yeah, but da 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 da. So therefore now what? A thought has come in and now it wants to debate this. But then, no, yeah, but my consciousness is like this, da, 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 and then the whole what attribution comes all over again. See, so what we're saying, you just had to, what lit up that thought? What lit up that thought? Consciousness. You're just now describing to me a thought that has arisen in your mind. So it has got nothing to do with this light that lit it up. It's got to do with your mind. Now, suppose some people will say consciousness is your mind, right? Your consciousness is a product of your mind. This is another possible objection. And how do you refute this? This is a valid objection. Consciousness is a product of your mind. This is a very valid objection right now. You have a mind, I have a mind, we all have a mind, and my consciousness, thus my mind, my consciousness is different than your consciousness, than your mind. Okay, so think about this. Mind is consciousness. So how do we get out of this statement? Well, you have to analyze it a little bit down. When you speak, what do you say? Words. What are you revealing when you speak? You're revealing your mind. So this means whenever we speak, that is our mind. The words is our mind. You cannot see the mind directly, but you can see it indirectly by speaking. Now, when I speak, whatever my mind is speaking, you're doing what? Objectifying my mind. When I speak, you literally, my mind is an object of knowledge to you. But when you speak, you're speaking your mind out to me also. And therefore, I'm able to what? Objectify your mind. So you can objectify my mind through words, and you can objectify my mind, and I can objectify your mind. So this means mind is not consciousness, because they're both objects of knowledge. You understand? So the argument was the mind is consciousness. But now we broke that down. How so? By understanding that when I speak, whatever I say is an object of knowledge to you. Whatever you say is an object of knowledge to me. Therefore, what's the one common variable? They're both objects. They're just both objects of knowledge. Therefore, mind is not consciousness. Mind is an object of. It's an object. Okay. The third argument goes like this. If your consciousness was localized to you, just to your body, to my body, etc., right? Then what problem arises out of that thinking? Your consciousness is over there, right? Localized to your body. My consciousness is over here, localized to my body. What objection, what can we argue against now?
How could we possibly relate, communicate, all these things?
Yeah.
No?
Okay.
Connect.
Now, let's explain this further because you're on the right track. So this means if my consciousness is over here and your consciousness is over there, then what becomes the truth of consciousness? Time and space. So now time and space is supposed to be conscious because it is what by definition the truth of consciousness. But is this our experience? Who in whose presence do we say, oh my God, time is flying so fast, time is so slow, time is kind of going like this, there's no time. For a moment I experience no time. So who is actually the truth of time? What does the time depend on? Time depends on you. This means time is not aware of you, you are aware of time. So now, if your consciousness was localized to every body, that means that consciousness is within space. Okay? And then a new baby comes, right? And now what? Consciousness within space and consciousness within time. So this means, by definition, then consciousness should arise out of time and space. But this is not our experience, because we experience time and space constantly undergoing changes, malleable, it goes through different forms, and no time also is experienced. So this means if time was consciousness and we experience for a moment no time, that means I should also disappear. Because if time disappeared, I should disappear. But I remain completely aware when there's no time. Therefore, consciousness does not belong to time. Consciousness belongs to the one that is aware of time. Whoever that one is, we don't know, but whoever that one is, to that one, consciousness is. Therefore, through this logic, time cannot possibly belong to, consciousness cannot belong to time. If it did, then when time, right, goes away, if you experience no sense of time, then by definition you should disappear also. But it's only because you do remain do you say later, what? I experienced no sense of time at all. There was no sense of time. Okay? Hold on to it. Hold on, almost done. Okay, and therefore, therefore, sarvantaryami, what is this consciousness? It is that which obtains in my mind, in your mind, in the Lord's mind. One consciousness obtaining. See, sarva antaryami, the inner ruler, the inner ruler, the inner light that just simply brings things to light. It brings things to light, because of which you say, objects, objects, objects. That objects, that capacity to identify objects is because of this sarvantaryami, this one light. And then aparoksha jnanavan. So jnanavan, see, van is possessor of jnana. So who is that one who has possesses knowledge? He is with aparoksha. So this means they directly understand this right now. There's no question of I heard it somewhere else. Right, I heard it once upon a time. Wow, yeah, I'm the light. Ooh. So there's no question of remembrance. It is a direct understanding, irrespective of memory being involved or not. Okay, and so this means who is a Jivanmukta? The one to whom these words ring true. The one to whom you relate, like, I relate, I'm getting it. I'm relating, I'm connecting with these words. There is no doubt. I cannot fault you. So in other words, who is that one who is a Jivanmukta? The one who is sitting and going, wow, okay, this is true in my experience. There's no contradictions, and if there are, I will go and analyze it. But this is true to my experience. To that one, to whom there's no vagueness. There's no vagueness. That one is a Jivanmukta who understands this knowledge. And also what? Understands the Lakshyartha. Lakshyartha, who understands the implied meaning, who says, when you say, I am God, you don't go on to, you immediately understand, I am God, and what's the truth of this, which I said God? The truth is existence awareness, which I am not, the person who said that is not apart from. So immediately your mind goes on to this knowledge. And then Dridha Nishchayaha. So this is, see, Dridha Nishchaya means firm. So who is a Jivanmukta? The one to whom, to whom this knowledge is firm. But what it really means is you don't judge yourself anymore based on what? Your upadhi. That's what it really means. What does firm knowledge mean? It means, yes, my upadhi may be a donkey, it may be a horse, but I don't judge myself on the basis of being a donkey anymore. It is my upadhi, but I'm much more than this upadhi. I'm much greater than this body, mind, intellect. Yes, there is a body, mind, intellect, but I'm much, much greater than this body, mind, intellect. So it's a very simple statement. You're not rejecting your body, mind, you're acknowledging it, but at the same time, you understand you're much bigger than all this. So therefore, dridha nishchayaha, I don't judge myself based on my messy mind. Is anyone's mind here is completely in order? Does anyone have a mind who's just, you love to spend time with your mind every day? It's like your best friend. I don't. If someone says yes, okay, God bless them. But I've tried for years and years and years to kind of take this mind under control, and the only thing that's worked is to accept that I have a relative amount of control, but never a full amount of control. So this means, despite having a fishy, messy mind, there's a level of maturity that, hey, let this mind, it's now going off into a wild forest. Let me just bring my attention back onto what can I do something that's productive right now. In Bhagavad Gita, we call this the karma yoga. Just getting back to what's important, what needs to be done right now. Sometimes we have a very fishy mind based on having too much time on our hands. So just get busy. That's a simple age-old solution. Just get busy. Okay, so we have one more session. Karma. Oh.
There goes the mind.
We'll finish. No problem. And then Jivanmukta will be addressed next. Okay. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.